All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Kendra Thibeault. I'm the advisor for the Engineering Management Program. Thanks for joining us. So for some reason, as I'm sharing my screen, I'm not able to see the chat right now. So we'll definitely leave room at the end for people to ask some questions if anything comes up as I'm kind of doing the overview right now. We're also recording this, so I can share this out with people afterwards if you want to review it later. So yeah, we're just going to do a quick overview of the engineering management program at the University of Colorado in Boulder. And then, like I said, we'll have some Q&A at the end. So thanks for joining. All right, so let's get started. So just a general overview of our program. We do have a Master's of Engineering and Engineering Management. We also offer dual degree programs in the areas of aerospace, computer science, electrical engineering management, or engineering, and mechanical engineering. We also offer 5 graduate certificates that are all 4 classes each or 12 credits in the areas of project management, managing operational excellence and quality systems, engineering management and aerospace engineering, innovation and entrepreneurship in engineering, and leadership in management. Here are upcoming deadlines for applications, and this is just for the master's degree, this first part. So for the fall application, which are currently open right now, our deadlines are April 15th for both international and domestic students or applicants. And then for the spring, that will open, spring 2022 will open sometime in the first week of July, usually. And we do have slightly different deadlines for international and domestic, just for gives enough time to get visa stuff figured out. So the international deadline is a little bit earlier than the domestic deadline. So the basic eligibility criteria for the master's program is an engineering or technical undergraduate degree, a 3.0 or the equivalent. So if you are an international applicant, there will be an evaluation of your transcripts to determine the equivalency from your undergraduate GPA. And then no work experience is required, but we do feel like it is beneficial to at least have done some internships or co-ops, things like that before starting the program. And here is the list of things that we require for the application. So there's an online application. They'll ask you basic information. There's a application fee, personal statement, resume, transcripts, standardized test scores, letters of recommendation, tuition classification form, and then any sensitive data. And I'll kind of go through these on the next couple of screens. So the basic information is just name, address, education, work history, things like that. And then the application fee is $60 for domestic and $80 for international, and you can pay that all through the online system. The personal statement is a really important area that hopefully most applicants don't overlook the importance of this. This is a great place to put anything else that is not included in your application anywhere else. So if there's anything that you would like us to know about you that doesn't show up on your transcripts or resume, you know, potentially if you had a lower GPA, you might want to discuss, you know, why that was, you know, circumstances are different for everybody. So we look at applications holistically. So we want to make sure that we're getting the full picture of all of our applicants as we're reviewing. And we do ask that people try and keep this to a page if possible, and those can be uploaded as a Word doc or PDF file. And the resume, you know, basic information about work history, internships, co-ops, and other related experiences that you feel like would strengthen your application. And then if you can keep this to 2 pages, that would be great. If not, you know, that's totally fine as well. And then we do ask that you have official transcripts from all of your schools. So whether it was something that a course that you took at a community college, a summer class, even if it was something that you did during high school, we want all of those transcripts. And then if you are admitted, you will be asked for official transcripts, and they'll give you a semester to get those in. So if you have copies, that is totally fine. You can even download from your school website and just upload those into your application. The GRE is not required, but we do require that if you do have a GPA lower than a 3.0. So the requirement is a 3.0, but as I mentioned, we do look at applications holistically. So if you have work experience or other things that might help strengthen the fact that your GPA might be a little lower than a 3.0, we would require the GRE scores. And if you have any questions about your specific situation, feel free to reach out and we can discuss options for you. And then for international applicants, we do require the IELTS or TOEFL scores. And through the fall 2021 application cycle, we are also allowing people to upload the Duolingo score. I don't know if that's going to continue past the fall, but the International Admissions Office did want to give applicants some more options with limited access to being able to go into testing centers and things like that. We do require 3 letters of recommendation, and these are just general guidelines. If you do have some work experience, we would like to see at least 1 professional. If you're closer to, just having graduated, it would be good also to have an academic letter of recommendation. And then if you have more than 3 years of work experience, it's certainly fine to just have all professional. And if you have any questions about this, feel free to reach out, but these are just general guidelines. They're not set in stone. And they should not be from family, friends, or colleagues if possible. And, professors, supervisors, even supervisors in internship roles are great. So the system will continue to, once you submit your application, they'll continue to take submissions of your letters. So those can come after the application deadline, but it is important to note that you do need to submit your application by the deadlines. The application system will close down for new applicants after the deadline, but we can still accept other items coming in after that. And it's always a good idea to let your recommenders know that these are coming. The links sometimes get hidden or go into a junk folder, things like that. So just make sure they know that that's coming. And you can also, through the application system, you can resubmit the link to your recommenders at any time. The tuition classification is done. So this is for residency to determine whether you would be paying in-state or out-of-state. And this is done through the Office of the Registrar. And when you apply, there'll be some questions that you will answer about your residency. And so that is all done through their office. And currently the tuition rates are below. So $1,114 per credit hour for in-state and $1,432 per credit hour for out-of-state. And so we do offer classes online and in person, but whether you're taking it online or in person, you would still be paying residency rates. The student fees would change depending on if you're taking classes online or not. And we haven't heard of any increases yet for this coming fall, so hopefully there won't be any increases, but that could potentially happen. And then the sensitive data is just, you'll answer some questions about non-academic suspensions, criminal history, and that does not, our program does not see any of that. That is done through some other office that reviews those situations. And then we'll move into the dual degree admissions. So if you are interested in doing engineering management along with the 4 programs that I listed before, that is 45 credits. So if you were to do both programs separately, it's typically about 60 credits. So by doing the dual degree, you would get a master's in both programs, but you would save 15 credits. So you'd save a little bit of time, money. And so We recommend, because our application is so similar to those other applications, that you just go ahead and apply to the other program and then reach out to our program, and we can just review that application instead of having to go through this whole process and ask your recommenders for recommendations twice and pay 2 fees and things like that. So just reach out to emp@colorado.edu and we can work with you on reviewing that application for possible admission. And then the certificate application deadlines are a little bit later because the process is not as time consuming. So for fall, we do ask that you have it in by August 1st, and the fall semester starts in the last week of August typically. And then the spring deadline is December 1st, and the spring semester starts mid-January typically. And then for international applicants, I always recommend that you reach out to the International Student and Scholar Services Office just to determine, based on your current visa status, whether you are able to take classes as part of a certificate program. Some visas do require that you're in a degree program, that you're enrolled in a degree program. So a student visa will not be issued for a certificate program. So just keep that in mind if that's something you're looking at doing. And then the certificate eligibility criteria is an undergrad degree in any academic field from an accredited institution. And then the GPA requirement is a little bit lower at 2.75. But keep in mind, any of our coursework that would count towards certificate or degree, you would need to receive at least a B or better for that to count towards your requirements. And a B average is a 3.0. And then the application process to the certificate is a little bit less involved. So we have a certificate application form on our website, and then you would submit your resume and then unofficial transcripts, and you would send all of that to our general email, so emp@colorado.edu. And then here's kind of a general timeline after you apply. You can always look at your application status in the application portal once you've submitted. And then typically we'll start reviewing applications 1 to 2 months before the deadline. So the current deadline for fall 2021 is April 15th. And so we just started looking at applications about a month ago, and we just sent the first round of decisions out this week. So typically you can expect to hear within 4 to 6 weeks of the deadline, sometimes earlier and sometimes a little bit after, just depending on when you actually completed. So some programs will just have one round of application review. Our program does do several rounds of review. So if you are worried about when you might hear back, feel free to reach out. As always, we're always available to answer any questions that people have. And then I just wanted to mention, it's important to make sure that once you do get that decision, that you follow all the steps in your admission email. Some people forget to confirm their admission or pay. There is a confirmation deposit fee that is $200 that you would pay, and then you do receive that back once you graduate. So just make sure you follow any information that is sent out to you. And then applicants may defer up to a year if needed. So especially during this past year with the pandemic going on, a lot of applicants have found that they just, it was better for them to defer their admission for a semester or two and then start up later. So feel free to reach out to me if that's something that you want to take advantage of. And then here, I'll send these slides out as well, but here's some kind of resource links. So feel free to go to our website. We have a lot of blog articles and webinars from past webinars that may be useful, that talks about things like the difference between our program and doing like an MBA, or we've interviewed different alumni, current students, faculty about different things. So those are always a good resource to look at. And then I also have linked in here the application FAQs, the certificate application, and then obviously the registrars and bursars are always a good resource for different things. And then if anyone is using their military benefits, the Veteran and Military Affairs Office is a really, really good resource. They know all the ins and outs of using the GI Bill and things like that. So I always refer students to them because they're definitely the experts on that area. And then these are some frequently asked questions that we get. So if I didn't want to do the GRE, but my GPA was below 3.0, are there other options? So we do allow, depending on what your GPA is, which, I always recommend reaching out if you have questions on this. We will allow students to take a couple of courses before applying. So you would take classes within the engineering management program. And if you did well in those courses, it would help supplement a lower GPA instead of taking the GRE. And if you were admitted, those courses would count towards the master's or certificate program. And then as far as our program offering funding, unfortunately, because we are not a research program, we cannot offer any funding like RA or TA positions. Depending on the semester, we may have, student grader positions, things like that available, but that's not always the case. So feel free to reach out if you have further questions about that. But I would recommend maybe reaching out to the financial aid office or the scholarship office to see if there's anything that you might qualify for. A lot of our students actually get employer benefits, so you might want to reach out to your employer to see if that's something they offer. And then, as I mentioned, some people are using military benefits. And so our program typically does qualify for most military benefits, but it's always a good idea to reach out to the campus office to make sure. And then as far as transfer credit, if you have taken any graduate coursework at another institution, it may be possible to transfer in some coursework, just depending on what the coursework was. So again, you would have to at least have a B or better. And then we would also want to make sure that it falls in line with the curriculum that we already offer. So reach out if you have any questions about transfer credit specifically. And then there's, that is me. And then you can reach out to the emp@colorado.edu email if you have any questions about admissions, coursework, anything like that. So I will stop sharing right now so that I can actually maybe interact with you all a little bit better. But if anyone has any questions, feel free to put it in the chat or just unmute yourself since there's only a few of us on here.
Okay, I'll start. This is Adam Archuleta.
Hello.
My first question is about the graduate certificates.
Okay.
Does that application have to be done with, the first year, or can I apply for a graduate certificate after my first year of grad school?
So if you are you thinking of doing the master's and a certificate? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So a master's in another program or our master's program?
Well, can I get the master's in engineering management and add an aerospace certificate?
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure I was understanding your question. So we do allow our students to earn a certificate as part of their degree program. So yeah, if you wanted to do our master's program and then do a certificate on top of that, the certificate classes could count towards your elective courses. Although that specific certificate, it does have one of our required classes as part of it too. So I definitely will work with all students on a plan of study when they first are admitted. So we can definitely talk through that. So if you're a degree student, you don't actually have to apply for the certificate on top of that, if that makes sense. You would just let me know that you want to earn a certificate at some point.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and you don't have to make that decision in the first semester or first year, but it's always good if you kind of know ahead of time so you can plan things out.
Right. Yeah, I have a pretty good idea of what I want, so I was just making sure.
I always like when people kind of have a good idea of what they want. So.
I guess I'll go again if nobody else has anything.
Sure.
My other question was about the official transcripts.
Yeah.
My undergrad degree was through the University of Colorado. Why do I have to submit an official transcript if the university should already have records of my classwork?
That is a good question. So I should have mentioned that if you did attend CU Boulder, you do not have to actually submit unofficial. You will still have to upload an unofficial transcript, I believe. I can double check on that. If you reach out to me, I can double check on that. But I know for sure you will not have to upload official once you're admitted. So that's a good question.
Thank you.
Sure. And I should mention, I don't know if anyone has any questions about our, so I mentioned that we do have online and on-campus classes right now. So typically our graduate classes are a hybrid model. So we have some students in the classroom, we have some students on Zoom, and then we also record all of our lectures. So some students are attending more asynchronously, just depending on how it fits within their work schedule. So we're right now kind of doing remote hybrid. So we haven't really had too many in-person classes as of the last few semesters, just with everything going on. So we're still determining what that will look like for the fall, but they're hoping that we may have more in person by the fall. So stay tuned for that if you have questions on that specifically. We just don't know for sure yet. What is the acceptance rate for the master's program? So it kind of depends on the semester. We have different amounts of people that apply each semester. So I don't have specific information on what the acceptance rate is, but I can send out general information on some of the stats that you're asking about. So we do have some information on graduate job statistics that I can send out as well. So feel free to reach out if you have specific questions on that kind of information, and I can send it out to you.
There's a question in the chat.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that one. If I was admitted to a graduate degree program, are there extra costs associated to also earn your certificate? So no, that is a good question. There is not. You would just pay tuition and fees for courses that you take. And so there's no additional costs to get your degree or certificate.
This is Adam again.
Sure.
Are there maximum or minimum credit limitations that you could take at any one time?
Per semester?
Right.
So for graduate students, so it depends on what you're asking about specifically. If you're looking at, so most of our students are part-time students working while they're taking classes, and they take 1 to 2 classes. 2 classes is actually at the graduate level considered full-time. So like for financial aid purposes, if you need to be full-time, then 2 classes would be considered full-time. The graduate school who kind of manages all the policies for graduate programs, they allow students to take up to 15 credits per semester. So you're not allowed to take more than 15 credits, which would be 5 classes. And that's a lot, even if you're not working full-time or working at all. 5 classes can be a challenge, but it can be done. And that would be, where I would work with you just to see what your certain, specific situation is.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay. I am an international applicant.
Okay.
I have finished my master's coursework in bioengineering from a school in another country.
Okay.
Now I want a master's in your school, but my CGPA is less than 3.0. That's my undergraduate CGPA is way less than 3.0, while my master's CGPA is way more than that.
Mhm.
So is it possible for me to gain admission into your school for another master's without a GRA?
Yeah, so that's a good question. If your undergrad GPA is below a 3.0, but you did complete a master's program, we would actually look at your graduate GPA.
I didn't get you, sorry.
So since you have an undergraduate GPA and then you also have a graduate GPA, so we would actually look at your graduate GPA since that's the more recent coursework that you did. So if that is above a 3.0, then we would be looking at that GPA.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Hi,
and
this
there's-
is Chase.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine.
My question is, how long typically is a graduate degree program, and do the dual degree program differ from the engineering professional program in terms of length and credit hours required?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Our program is a little bit different. We don't have necessarily, like some programs might have cohorts where they're completing at the same rate as, you know, their fellow students. So we do have, as I mentioned, most of our students are working, so they're taking 1 to 2 classes, but we do have some full-time students where they might be taking anywhere from like 3 to 5 classes per semester. So it really depends on the individual situation. I would say if you're working full time and you're taking, you know, 1 to 2 classes, it takes, I would say 3 to 4 years is probably on average for most of our students. Some do finish sooner, just depends on, you know, work and family obligations that you have. And then as far as the dual degree, that obviously adds on more coursework. So I would say, you know, however long it takes you to finish our master's, it's probably about 1.5 times that, I guess, to finish the dual degree, if that makes sense.
Okay, and if I'm only taking, like, if I'm working full-time and a part-time student, would I still be paying essentially the same amount in tuition per semester as someone who is taking, you know, 4 or 5 classes?
So you pay per credit for our program. So there are other programs where if you hit a certain credit amount, then it's the same after that, but ours is just per credit. So whatever you're taking
Okay.
each semester is what you would pay for.
Awesome, thank you.
Sure. Good questions.
Okay,
So
I
there's
would
a,
like to ask.
oh, I'm sorry. I keep trying to address the chat, but that's fine. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, I just want to ask about the off-campus accommodation and on-campus accommodation in your school.
So for like
Is
housing, are you talking about
Yes.
housing? Okay.
Yes. Is the school located far from city where someone can get accommodation off campus?
So if you want to reach out to me separately, a lot of our students are not living on campus or, you know, they're attending from wherever they already live. So I can definitely send you some resources for housing. But CU Boulder is right in the middle of the city of Boulder, which is a pretty big city. And there's also other larger cities that are nearby. So like Denver is pretty close. There's some other cities that are close by, but I can certainly, CU has a lot of resources on housing. So I can send you some of that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And I'm going to put the, so you can either email emp@colorado.edu. I just sent that, or you can send me a direct email as well. So I'm just putting these in the chat for you all. There you go. And then so there's a couple of chat questions about are there on-campus jobs to support international students, any impact due to COVID? So there definitely is a lot of there is a whole office that has student employment opportunities. So a lot of international students will take advantage of those. I think there is some impact due to COVID, but I think some of those jobs may have just shifted to be more remote, possibly. But there are students on campus right now. It's just a little bit more limited. So I don't know the direct impact that has had on jobs, but I know there have been some budget cuts across campus and things like that, just with everything going on. So that could have impacts to opportunities. And then there are some summer classes that we offer. Summer is a little bit more limited. This coming summer, summer 2021, we actually are offering quite a few classes. I think we're offering 7. But typically, most summers we're offering like 3 to 4. But we're trying to offer more in the summers to accommodate students. Yes, Paige. Yeah.
Thanks. If we if we apply through this round of applications for the fall, would we be eligible to take a summer class this summer, or will we have to wait till summer of 2022?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I didn't mention, we don't have summer admissions, but if you did want to start in the summer, there's a couple of options. So you could apply for the fall and then just let me know, and we could certainly shift your application to the summer. Or you could just take a class in the summer as what would be called a non-degree seeking student, which just means that you're not in a degree program yet. So there's two options there.
Okay.
So just if you're interested in shifting to summer, just reach out to me and we can work out options for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
While we're on the summer topic,
sure.
I wanted to ask how early are those summer class availabilities made public? Will we know which classes are offered in summer of 2022?
Oh, okay. So summer 2021 is available right now. You can see those classes. So I'll put a link. So if you go to classes.colorado.edu, you can see summer 2021. As far as summer 2022, I'm trying to remember exactly when they open up class. I think they open the link that I just sent, the classes.colorado.edu. I think it's about a month before registration opens, and registration for summer just opened last week. So I can't remember exact. It's sometime in probably February that you would be able to see summer. But feel free to reach out to our program too, because we often know probably, I would say November, December, we know when we'll be offering summer classes for the following summer. But fall and spring are pretty much the same from year to year. It's summer is a little bit different because it depends on if faculty want to teach during the summer. So that's why it can shift from year to year, what we offer. So our program does not offer application fee waivers. There may be some fee waivers if you reach out to the admissions office. I know they waive fees for active military, and there might be some other things that they can offer, but our program does not specifically offer waivers at this time.
This is Kristen. I have a question about the certificate program.
Okay.
I started taking a class this semester just as a non-degree student that would be part of the certificate program if I wanted it to be.
Okay.
Just wanted to start out trying just one class to see how it would be with working and everything. And so if I decide that I do want to apply to the certificate program, do I have to do that within a certain time frame in order to have the credits that I'm taking this semester count towards that?
I mean, the certificate application is a little bit more relaxed than the graduate. So if you were taking classes for a degree program, you're only allowed to take up to 3 classes before being admitted into the program.
Okay.
So the certificate, it's not as urgent that you apply right away, but I would say the sooner the better, just to make sure that you're able to earn that certificate. So I know that's not really an answer, but there's a little bit more wiggle room with that for sure.
Yeah, like a year, is that okay?
Yeah, just I would say probably by at least the semester, your last semester, I would say at least by then. And then there's a completion form on our website to let me know once you finish that, because it's a little bit harder to track the completion of certificates. And so we rely on students to let us know when they've completed it.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Sure. What is the average age or work experience of engineering management admits? I'm trying to remember what the exact average was because we just actually looked at this. But I would say, I mean, we have quite the range. We have students that are, just out of undergrad that are doing our program, all the way up to, somebody in their 60s. So it's kind of hard to say, but I would say on average, most people are probably in their late 20s, early 30s would be about the average. And so most people do have some work experience. But again, that is not required, but it is helpful. A lot of our classes are very applicable classes. So a lot of students find that they can immediately apply things that they're learning into the work that they're doing in their, I'm having a hard time saying this, but in their job duties, they're able to apply what they're learning in the classroom right away. So, so it is beneficial, but it's not required. Are there a certain amount of applicants admitted every semester? No, again, it depends on, sometimes we have lower numbers and sometimes we have higher. I would say on average, I don't know, it could be anywhere between like 50 and 100 students that we're admitting in any given semester. I would say fall, we tend to admit more students than spring. There's just more applicants in the fall typically. But yeah, we don't really have like a max at this point that we're admitting or a minimum.
I have another question. In the criteria for the engineering management degree, or for the master's in engineering degree, I think you mentioned that your undergrad degree has to be either a technical program or in engineering.
Mhm.
What if it wasn't? Our undergrad degree was like in liberal arts.
So I mean, we do make exceptions. So we definitely look at work experience and what you've done in the past for work, and then what your career goals are. So I mean, we definitely have some people that don't technically have an engineering degree, and they do fine in the program. So it depends on situations. We're not like super strict, like you have to have all of these things, but we look at everything. So
okay, so there's no like prerequisites or something that you'd have to take.
So that's an interesting question. We did have a prerequisite until recently for students that did not have an engineering background, and we've discontinued that class for now. I don't know if that's something that might come back, but for now we do not have any prerequisites.
Interesting, because of COVID, or it just happened?
I think there was a lot. No, it wasn't COVID, but there's just been a lot of discussions in our programs about just coursework and looking at core requirements and electives. So we just felt like that class might not be needed anymore, but we'll see. It may change.
Thanks.
But I'm happy to talk through with anyone's specific situation too.
There's another good one in the chat about based on how many people deferred until this year, does it decrease our chances of getting in this year?
No, the short answer is no. There were some people that we definitely had higher deferrals for sure over the last. So I would say for fall 2020 and spring 2021, we did have a lot of people defer to fall 2021. So we're hoping that, the people that did defer will come. But we are keeping that in mind as we're admitting people. But so far, I don't anticipate that will impact how many people we admit for the fall. That's a good question. And then there's another question about, so there's not really any other options for English proficiency. There are there's very outlined information about the English proficiency requirement. That's actually a university and visa requirement. So we don't necessarily have a lot of say. We can determine what scores we'll accept, but we can't necessarily waive that unless you've gone to an English institution within the last 2 years, or there's some waiver available, but we can't just completely waive that requirement necessarily. So I'm happy to talk through specific situations on that as well. But yeah, So hopefully that answers that question.
I have this is Niels. I have a question on the flexibility of hybrid classes. And let's say, for example, that I attend in-person classes, but for work reason, I have to travel overseas for several weeks. Can it default automatically to online? And then, or is it a situation where if I sign in for in-person, I have to attend every class in person?
Yeah, so the in-person is a little bit more like we typically do require that students do attend in person. So if it's a situation where you know you're going to be traveling a lot and you might miss a lot of in-person, I would recommend just signing up for the online section. But if there's room in the class, you're always welcome to attend in person. I will say right now, the COVID situation is limiting how many people we can have in the classroom. So the capacity is a little bit lower. We're hoping that will shift in the fall and that we'll be able to have more people in the classroom. But typically it is not an issue for online students as they're available to attend in person. If it's a limited situation where you're just going to be missing a few classes because of work, then it may still be possible to sign up for the in-person, but I would just recommend talking with the professor and letting them know of your situation. They're very familiar with, our students having work obligations and things like that. So they're typically pretty flexible, but I would say communication is the number one thing with them. Just let them know what's going on.
Thank
While
you.
we're on that
Sure.
topic,
Yeah.
can I ask a little more detail about the in-class options? Is there like a sign-up list that's capped at a certain number of students where the online students can see is there availability that day, so we can perhaps see an in-person class?
Not really. So basically, I would say just keep in contact with the professor and ask them what the capacities are. Like I said, I think because we do have the hybrid model and we have, some people in person and some people online, it typically has not been an issue. There's been space available for online students to participate in person. So, I mean, there could be situations where there might not be enough room for online students to attend, but in the past, we have not really encountered that happening. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, I'll speak with the professors.
Yeah, and I mean, again, right now, because the COVID caps are a little bit lower, that could potentially be an issue. But right now, I don't think for this spring, we don't have any in person right now in the graduate program. So it's just all been remote.
I have a quick question, Mrs. Page. So does that, the cost per credit that you mentioned earlier, does that include like all the additional student fees, like access to sports games or the rec center, things like that?
That's a good question. So if you are in person, your fees will be higher than online. Online students don't pay all of the on-campus fees, so they don't pay. I can't remember exactly, but basically, if you're online, you would still be paying for like the computing fees and career services, things like that. You would still pay, but they're definitely less than if you're in person.
Gotcha. So if I wanted that aspect of, the experience during my master's degree, would I have to select in person in order to?
I think so. This has come up a few times where online students have been like, wait, like I want to pay for, a bus pass or I want to pay for this. And so I think some of those things can be purchased separately, but I don't know if everything can. So let me find out where they're at on that, because that is a good question. And I know they've made some changes during this pandemic situation too.
So sorry. I'm so sorry.
No worries. So yeah, they've shifted some of the fees as well for in-person even now, just because a lot of it has gone more remote than typically. So let me I should probably look into that anyway, so I'll get back to you. If you want to send me an email too, that would be helpful.
Okay,
And I can
Okay.
definitely reach out to you.
great, thank you.
These are good questions. They're different than what I normally do. So you're putting me on the spot, which is good. So
Do you mind sending the email to the whole group? Because some
Oh,
of
sure.
us live in Boulder and we might take advantage of the proximity of campus.
yeah, I can do that. Yeah, so when I'll send out the recording and I can send some further information on things that we've discussed in this session. Just making sure I didn't miss anything. Are there any lingering questions in the chat that I didn't answer? I don't think there is, but
Hey, Kendra, can I add something real quick?
sure.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lou Rutherford. I work with Kendra in engineering management as well. I just wanted to touch on the topic of coming in as a non-degree student. You've heard from a couple of students who have taken courses as a non-degree student, but I just wanted to say that if you're not sure if you want to apply for the degree program and you're on the fence, we do have the option for you to take courses, and try them out as a non-degree student to, see if you like the professors, if you like the courses or not, if you like CU Boulder. And so take a course or two in that manner. And then if you decide you do like the program and the faculty and that you feel the degree would be worthwhile, you will be able to transfer those courses into the degree program. So you wouldn't be losing out on anything by giving it a try, especially if you're kind of just, trying to gauge certain things. So I just want to encourage that aspect as well if you're on the fence.
Yeah, and I can help you with the registration process is a little bit different for that. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I was trying to think if there's anything else I didn't mention, but I don't know if I got into the specifics on the degree requirements, but it's 30 credits, which is 10 courses. And so right now we currently have 5 required classes and then 5 electives to choose from. And so as Adam mentioned earlier, as part of those electives, you could choose to do a certificate with your degree. And so both the degree and the certificate would show up on your transcripts. And you would receive a certificate in the mail, a paper certificate like you would a diploma. So you would get both of those things. So it'd be on your transcripts and you would receive an actual certificate. And then right now, so starting in the fall, we're actually going to be going to coursework only. And we're also going to start offering a capstone option. So the capstone actually won't start until spring 2022. Since we're still developing it and we feel like new students likely wouldn't be starting the capstone in the fall anyway. But we're hoping that the capstone will be an option for students that are interested in like an area like entrepreneurship or project management or some of the other areas that we offer. And then you could maybe do a capstone project in that area. And so the capstone would be included in your 30 credits for the degree. So it would basically take the place of one of your elective courses. And so as this course is developing, I'll send out more information to students. We're just trying to get it just right to make sure that it's a good experience for students that do want to complete that option. So.
One question on capstone projects.
Sure.
Is it possible for a student to bring his own, capstone opportunity?
Yeah, so that's kind of the idea. It will be largely on the student to kind of develop what their capstone might be. So there'll be a little bit of flexibility on what that might look like for individual students. So what we're looking at is that it will be a course that one of our faculty members will teach. And so they'll help students with their capstone ideas. But then the idea is that some of our other faculty that have specialization in different areas will be there to help support students with their ideas and what they want to do in the capstone. So we really want to make it very student focused.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the follow-up question is about intellectual property associated with a capstone project. So for example, if I were to bring an idea and it happened to be accepted, do I retain the intellectual property or does it become CU Boulder's?
That's a good question. I don't know. I can find out though. That's a good question. You know, and there's also, I know in the past we have had a capstone and we moved away from it, and so now we're kind of bringing it back, but it's refreshed and a little bit different than what we were doing before. And I know there's been other things that have come up, especially with our students that are working. They have to be careful about sharing, you know, employer data and things like that too. So that I think there'll be a lot more as we're developing this course. I think we'll be really specific about, you know, those kinds of things for sure. So that's a good question to think about.
Thank you.
But I don't know the answer right now, but I will, you will hopefully know.
That's okay. There is time, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I think it'll be a good option for students to kind of develop maybe an area that they're interested in, or you know, maybe even some looping in something they are working on at work or something like that. So. But again, that's just an option. You can still just do like the straight, you know, 10 courses and complete the degree as well. So. And then all of our certificates are 12 credits, so they're 4 courses. And again, if you wanted to start with a certificate and then transition to the degree, a lot of students do that, and all of the certificate courses would count towards the degree.
I was just going to ask that, so that's good to hear.
Yeah. So, you know, with the caveat I said earlier, you're only allowed to take 9 credits before being admitted to the degree. If you do start a certificate, there is some flexibility with students counting the 4 courses towards their degree. So, because we do have a lot of students that end up doing that. So.
Cool.
The answer in the chat, can the person that just sent the chat about their final semester, can you send me an email? I think I need to know a little bit more information about that. I think what you're asking is okay, but I just want to double check. So if you could send me a separate email, that would be helpful. Oh, so you already, oh, okay. Never mind, sorry. We're all good. Sorry if you can hear my cat in the background. She's unhappy about something.
I thought maybe that was a baby.
No, just an old cat that, you know. The joys of being at home and working, right? At least my dog's not barking. So
On one of my calls, we hear our product owner's dog snoring every morning.
Oh, yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, it's like things that used to be kind of like faux pas or like just accepted now. So,
yep.
All right. Well, if there's not any other lingering questions, I've kind of made a list of some things that have come up during this. So I'll send a follow-up email to everybody that was that signed up for this webinar. We'll send out the recording. I'll send out some additional links, and I'll send out the slides for this. But if you have any individual questions, feel free to reach out to either the emp@colorado.edu email or reach out to me directly. I'm happy to help with anything you have. And hopefully we'll see you all in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a good day. Bye bye.
You too. Thank you.